This is a quick video on how to run a node.js Express web application on a rented VPS, rented through P2P VPS. So if you are a JavaScript developer who is already familiar with Node.js, this should be blowing your mind, because what you can now do is run an Express web application, or basically a website, uh, on a semi-anonymous virtual private server where the hardware is abstracted. It might be running on a Raspberry Pi, or it might be running on a virtual machine somewhere in the world. You don't care. And it will create a publicly accessible website. So let's just dive right on in and show how to do this. The code that I'm going to run in this example is in the P2P VPS group repository. So navigate to github.com/P2P VPS. And then the repository of interest is this local tunnel test application. So I've got this brought up here. And again, if you go to the P2P VPS group, look for this local tunnel test app, and basically just follow the directions. So I have a video at p2pvps.org on how to rent out a VPS. But right now I'm going to cheat and look behind the dashboard and get the data I need to log in as if I had rented it. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. Bringing up my handy dandy PuTTY SSH client. And this is the same information that would get sent in OpenBazaar after purchasing the rental. So I'm going to log in here with my computer-generated login name and password. There we go. Now, instead of working in the home directory, which is where I'm at right now, because this is not persistent storage, I'm going to work in the media storage directory, because this is the standard location where the P2P in a P2P VPS, where the persistent storage will be located. So I'm going to go back to these directions. So first thing you want to do is clone the installation. Okay, so there's a copy of our repository. I'm going to change directory into it. Now, like I said, Node Express is a Node. This is going to be a Node Express application. So Node is already installed, version 8.9 by default. So I'm going to install the dependencies. Oh, actually, first I'm going to install local tunnel. G local tunnel, and I'm going to need that password again. Now, local tunnel is an awesome repository. I have a link in it here to the notes. The P2P VPS server will eventually have a Docker container running local tunnel locally, but until that gets put in place, they have an external server that we can use. And what it's going to do is it's going to set up the same kind of reverse SSH connection that P2P VPS does, except it's specifically for serving web pages, both over HTTP, which is port 80, and HTTPS, which is port 443. It handles all the encryption for you for the HTTPS. It looks like it's installed. I'm already in the repository, so I'm going to do the next step, which is Npm Install, and this will install the other dependencies on this example program. That's installed. So now I'm going to run local tunnel on port 3500, because that's what I have this example program configured for. And the ampersand runs it in the background, which lets me continue to issue commands on the command line. Now this address is important. This is what it's going to give you. This is where your web pages are going to be served, or your web application. So now if I do npm start and start the Express application, it'll pop up. It'll say that it started on port 35, and now I can go to this URL and bam, there it is. This is what you'll see. It's just an example program, and it's serving up a web page. And the important thing is that this is basically an anonymous web server, and this could be a very sophisticated web app, or it could be a static web page, anything in between. Let me walk you through some of the files here in the directory. This is the local tunnel. In this example, the main node.js application that's running is this index.js file. If you go into the lib directory, you'll see this express server. This is a library that gets called by that index file that sets up the express server. So anything you want to customize, like for example, the express server is set up to use handlebars as the template engine, but you could use other things like Jade, or I think it's called Pug now. And then your assets live in here. So here's all your CSS and image files and JavaScript files, all the front end stuff. And then in the views directory is this index.handlebars. And this is the actual information that shows up here on the home page. That lives right here in this file. And there's actually two parts to it. The index.handlebars is the body, and then in this layout is this main.handlebars, and that's the header and the footer. And so this, and then where this body tag, that's where the index.handlebars file gets injected. So it's really what you see here on the page is composed between those two files. But that's it. It's very simple. If you're new to Express or Node.js, Google them, read up on them. This is considered like a very basic and simple Express app. And so enjoy this, and if hopefully this is getting your gears turning on some of the implications that you can do with renting a virtual private server with P2P VPS.